What's up, guys? My name is Omarr, and today's topic is the potential mental health impacts of colorism. So I'm just gonna put a disclaimer out there. I'm not an expert, so there are gonna be some things that I miss. And if I do miss some things, put them in the comment box and start a conversation around it. So first, what is colorism? Colorism has many definitions, but I'm gonna use the definition provided by the person that actually coined the word, Alice Walker. Alice Walker defined colorism as prejudicial or preferential treatment of same-race people based solely on the color of their skin. Another way to look at it is like intraracial color bias, a bias that usually gives preferential treatment to people of lighter skin tones, but discriminatory treatment of people that have darker skin tones. Now, this definition was based primarily in the context of the treatment of African Americans by other African Americans. But it's important to note that colorism exists beyond the context of blackness in America. It exists amongst people of color all over the world. And although this video is gonna focus on the context of the way colorism plays out within Black America, a lot of the same impacts affect people of color all over the world. Also, this video isn't really about discussing how colorism came to be. It's more so about the mental health impacts of colorism. The first impact that I want to talk about is self-esteem. Colorism creates a space for us to attribute certain characteristics and assign certain values to people of lighter skin and people of darker skin. Traditionally, darker skin tones are associated with masculinity, aggression, criminality, and ugliness. And lighter skin tones were associated with things like beauty, intelligence, and good hair. And those were just a few of the BS characterizations. There's a whole lot more. But among some people, this belief is subconsciously real, and it carries real consequences as it relates to self-esteem and self-love, specifically in regards to standards of beauty. Western standards of beauty give preference to lighter skin tones, straight or less coarse hair, and lighter eyes. And colorism creates a space where lighter skinned people are seen as more desirable and darker skinned people are seen as less desirable. And through media messaging, image consumption, and centuries of conditioning, we may internalize some of these same values. And when we do, it can manifest in many ways. We all know Black people that only date light-skinned people or date skin tones that are lighter than their own. We also all know Black people who alter their hair, eyes, and skin color to resemble a more Western idea of beauty, right? I mean, worldwide, skin bleaching creams is a multi-billion-dollar industry, as is the relaxer, weave, and hair extension industry. And when it comes to altering appearances, I know the conversation usually revolves around darker skinned women or brown women, but don't sleep. There's plenty of men that alter their appearance to kind of fit the Western mold, whether it was contacts, S-curls, perms, even skin bleaching cream. And this idea that who we are, as we are, isn't good enough, to me is deeply rooted in low self-esteem, a lack of self-love, and a desire to be accepted. And the way we in society continue to perpetuate these ideals can be even more damaging to our own self-esteem. For example, when I was a kid, I vividly remember somebody saying, "Don't play in the sun because you're gonna get blacker." Now, I'm a chocolate brother. I always have been, and I've always had a pretty good appreciation for my skin tone. But I remember hearing, "Stay out the sun, you're gonna get darker." And I remember thinking to myself, because I had to be, I was a kid, I had to be really young, because it starts really young. But I remember thinking to myself, looking at my arm like, damn, what the hell is wrong with being darker? And I think that was my introduction into the theme that being darker was wrong and being lighter was right. And initially, my self-esteem took a little hit because I knew I wasn't light-skinned. And constantly hearing girls refer to lighter skin features as being more desirable was a constant reminder of that. And fortunately for me, I had a mother that kind of reaffirmed the awesomeness of chocolate. So the hit that I took on my self-esteem wasn't as big. But for many people, especially many women, the hit on one's self-esteem can be very, very big, especially because we live in a society that values women primarily based on the way they look. Terms like good hair and bad hair can be especially damaging because essentially we're telling people that something is inherently wrong with the way their hair naturally grows out of their head. And that could be incredibly damaging to somebody's self-esteem. Why does the way my hair grow naturally have to be wrong? My hair doesn't grow at all, but that's another story. The second impact that I want to explore is self-concept. One of the ways colorism can negatively affect somebody's self-concept is the way colorism creates a space for somebody's blackness to be rejected, specifically in regards to some lighter-skinned Black people. Sometimes lighter-skinned black people are told that they're not black, or that they're not black enough, or that their black experience is not as authentic as the next person's. Now that can cause incredible discourse to someone's self-concept, right? Especially if they're young. They've been black their whole lives, and having people discredit that can be especially damaging to their self-concept. Also, in regards to self-concept, colorism can help reinforce constructs for what it means to be light-skinned and what it means to be dark-skinned. For example, amongst African Americans, there are some stereotypes. Lighter-skinned men may be seen as soft and emotional. Lighter-skinned women may be seen as stuck-up. Darker-skinned men may be seen as more aggressive. And darker-skinned women may be seen as hypersexual. And of course, these are all stupid stereotypes, and sometimes they're used in a joking manner. But these stereotypes still have some influence on how others see African Americans. But more importantly, as black people, these stereotypes can have an influence on how we see ourselves. For example, I'm a darker-skinned man, and I know that darker-skinned men can be seen as more aggressive. Now, it doesn't help that I'm also like 6'5", but I understand that darker skinned men by large margins are considered more aggressive than other people. It's part of the reason why our prison sentences are longer, but that's another story. But sometimes I may try to purposely curb my aggressiveness just because I don't want to feed into how I think people perceive me. And that's just one way it plays out with me. It may play out differently for other people. Also, in regards to self-concept, I think that colorism and stereotypes around light skin and dark skin are part of a larger conversation about the policing of blackness. Meaning, sometimes colorism places limitations on what it means to be light skinned, what it means to be darker skinned, and really what it means to be black. Now, the roots of these limitations are a whole other conversation, but the impacts of these limitations are real. I mean, I remember when Kanye West came out with College Dropout. That album for me, and I think for many people, was very impactful because Kanye delivered a unique representation of blackness and really black manhood that wasn't readily seen in the mainstream media. And I remember thinking, yo, this dude is dope. I can relate to the music in a different way than most of the other rap that I've heard before. Not to say that Kanye was the first to come and be conscious with it, but I think that, you know, everything that he represented and the way he put himself out there like that, it was mad honest, it was mad genuine, and, you know, a lot of people related to it, myself included. And that was mainly, I think, because Kanye existed outside of the bubble of what it meant to be a brown-skinned black man. At least outside of all the messages that we were told a brown-skinned black man was. And seeing that represented in the mainstream and it being seen as okay, it furthered my idea of what blackness can be. But you see, to me, that's a problem, right? You see, colorism played such a large role in how I viewed myself that it limited my own self-concept. And seeing an artist like Kanye West helped me evolve past that narrow view. And really eventually to a place where I understood that my blackness will be whatever I wanted it to be. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, but it was true for me and hopefully some of you could relate. The last impact that I want to talk about is animosity. I don't think that animosity is widespread, but I do think that it's worth mentioning. There is sometimes a bit of animosity that exists between some of my brothers and sisters of different shades. And I really think that animosity is rooted in a hodgepodge of perceived privileges, actual privileges, false senses of superiority, insecurity, and strategic methods used to actually create this discourse. To kind of deconstruct colorism, it's going to continue to happen. So what can we do to battle colorism and some of the impacts that may accompany it? The first thing we could do is get very introspective with ourselves about what we see as beauty and what we see as blackness. Meaning that it's perfectly okay to have a preference for Western features, right? I don't want anybody to feel like I'm attacking them for their choice in what they look like or who they choose to date or anything like that. But to me, as a black person, I think it's really important to examine why I do or don't have certain preferences, you know? So ask yourself questions. Do I date X, Y, and Z because I like X, Y, and Z? Do I date X, Y, and Z because it gives me validation? Do I like to make myself look like ABC because I really like ABC? Do I like ABC because other people like ABC? You know, do what's true to you, you know? If you like something, and that's great. But I think it's really important to examine why you may have certain preferences. Examine why you may think certain things about certain looks and certain people. You know, get real introspective, take a real hard look at some of your own preferences, some of your own thoughts regarding black people, regarding black hair, regarding black beauty, regarding your own look, regarding what you bring to the table, regarding how people view you when you wear your hair this way or view you when you wear your hair that way. And take a deep, hard look at why it is you do some of the things that you do or don't do. Why do you have a preference for this person to date? Why do we look at certain people and say it's okay for them to do this, but it's not okay for them to do that? I remember when Young Jock, he kind of permed his hair and everybody was like, yo, this dude is wildin', he looks crazy. But we give a pass to Jadena, you know what I'm saying? Or to Miguel, who are lighter skinned people. So it's okay for them to have their hair looking like that, but it's not okay for someone like Jock to have his hair looking like that. I mean, it looked crazy, but but still, you know, I think that we should really take a look at the way we kind of police what is okay and what's not okay for people to wear. If you see somebody of lighter skin tone with, you know, piercings and, you know, colored hair, she can be seen as edgy. But if you see a darker skinned woman with that same look, she might be seen as something else. So it's important to, you know, examine why we feel the way we feel about certain looks, why we think some things are okay and some things aren't. And really, you know, do what you do because you like it. Do what you do because it makes you happy. Do what you do because it empowers you, you know, because really, it's really easy to tell the difference between self-confidence and self-love that radiates from the inside out than the kind that needs to be masked and created from the outside in. Also, challenge your friends and family when it comes to perpetuating symptoms of colorism, right? And also be aware of the programming. Seriously. Be aware of the programming in regards to dark skin and light skin. Be very, very conscious of it. Look in the media, look on TV, look at social media, look at magazines, look at the way we're programmed through messaging about the way we're supposed to look, the way we're supposed to be, the way we're supposed to act. Look at those images, look at those messages and deconstruct them, because it's all programming. Also, if you live with pain that's associated with colorism, don't be afraid to go to therapy. And I know therapy can be seen as taboo to black people sometimes. And side note, one of my goals is to change that. But for many of us, therapy is absolutely necessary. And if you take that step, you'd be surprised what wonders it can do. So let's empower one another, let's love one another, and for the sake of our mental health, let's deconstruct this thing called colorism. Because no one looks good despite being brown skinned. We just look good. So let's keep the conversation going. How has colorism affected you or your mental health? Leave your comments in the comment box. That's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, share it, and subscribe. I'm on YouTube, and I just actually started my Facebook page, Mental Health for Us. Thank you to everybody who actually liked the page too. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for watching. Later, guys.